Hey guys, I am officially starting my video blog for this whole process of traveling to Korea next month, or I'm sorry, this summer. This is really awkward for me because I don't really enjoy being on camera, but as you can see, um, I feel like this is probably the best way to keep in touch with everybody, and people usually would rather read a video than or watch a video rather than read some big long blog. So I'll probably do the blogs too. So if you really feel like reading something, then I will have plenty for you to read, I promise. So if you are just kind of figuring out exactly what has been going on with me, I was accepted this week to the Global Overseas Adoptees link for what's called a first trip home for adoptees from Korea. I applied for it last year, but I did not get selected. The reason being, um, last year they were giving priority to adoptees that were born in the 1970s, so they wanted to give those people an opportunity to get back before, time runs out, if you want to put it that way. So, had a really difficult time with not getting accepted last year. I, had to take a couple days off work, and it was just really stressful because I really kind of amped myself up for this trip. My interview had gone really well, and I knew they were giving priority to the older adoptees, but for some reason I just got really overexcited and kind of assumed that I was going to get it, which is never the way to be. So that was hard, but looking back on it, I think that last year was not really the right time. I really wasn't stable with my job yet. I had just moved back to Kansas City, and we were still kind of looking for a place to live, and it was just a very unstable time for me in a lot of ways. So I think that looking back on it, it was probably just not meant to be. And it was obviously hard to accept that at the time. I'm very much a I want everything now type of person. So, it took me a while to get over that. But, this year it's happening, and it's all thanks to you guys. I really can't even say enough properly to say thank you for all of the support. As far as the fundraising goes, that was something that had been suggested, and I kind of struggled with it because I was like, well, I can't really ask people for money. This is something I should have been able to do myself. And while that is true, the fact of the matter is that the trip, most of these adoptee trips, you apply for, and they send you within the next few months. So you really don't have a whole lot of time to prepare. It's kind of, start planning it whenever you get accepted, and it's definitely an intense process to get accepted to the trip. So it's not like it was a first come first served. It was an interview process and a lot of waiting and wondering what was going on. So once again, I really can't say thank you enough. I'm sure that no matter how I try and say it or how much I try and say it, it's not going to seem good enough to me. But just know that all of the support, monetary or not monetary, is so appreciated. Just speaking from the GoFundMe portion of it, we are at, let me look here. And this was started on, what is today? Sunday. I guess we started it on Friday, I want to say. And within that just over 24 hours, as of now, we're over 50% of the way to our goal. So that just, honestly, it blows my mind. There's been people, one person that I've never even met before, a couple people that I don't speak to often, and then more than a few family and close friends that have really shown their support. And I don't even know how to thank you guys. So thank you so much for that. Um, Basically, now the next step is to go ahead and try and figure out plane ticket situation. A friend of mine has recommended a good travel agency for that part of the world, so I'm going to contact them tomorrow and see if I can get the best possible rate that I can for traveling. And my preference is to go on Korean Air because I just feel like that's what you should do, but also that it's just for that long of a flight, I feel like you need to do the airline that is going to be the most comfortable, because I'm not going to be able to do first class or business class for that sort of trip, but Korean Air is supposed to have one of the best coach classes in the world, so can't really go wrong there. So that's the next step. I'm going to be looking into that this week to try and get that squared away. I do need to get my passport renewed. It did expire last October, so I'll be doing that expedited this week as well. So those are kind of the logistical things that need to get figured out. The trip is September 15th through the 25th, so it's 10 days, basically 8 if you take away all the travel time that I'll be doing. So I'll actually leave Kansas City on September 14th, since Korea is 13 hours ahead of us, so I will get there in Korea on the 15th. So, apparently you can do rentals for phones and that sort of thing, so I will be doing that so I can keep up with my blogging and tons of pictures and status updates and a lot of things to make you sick of me while I'm there. So that's all to come. And I guess the only other thing I wanted to talk about today was just, this a little bit of background, I guess, on the process that I've been through. And this is something that has taken me a very long time to try and get comfortable with. I spent the majority of my life, and you can ask any of my friends, I know you guys know who you are, you can ask any of my friends that I used to be that person that was constantly making, off-color jokes and making myself the subject of them, and just anytime somebody would say any sort of mildly offensive joke or very offensive joke about Asian people, I would just be like, oh, haha, that's funny, that's me, bad driver, whatever. I figured out, I didn't figure out until much later that was very much a coping mechanism, and it was something that I did because I wanted to feel like I was fitting in. So if that meant that the jokes were at my expense, then that was fine with me. So, I was very self-conscious of what I looked like, and, I just never really felt like, I don't know, it's hard to explain because I really never even understood that I didn't feel like I fit in. I was very happy, I was very outgoing, I was very, what I thought to be comfortable in my own skin. And this was all up until about 2 years ago. And Daniel, bless his heart, he was probably the person that I can credit the most of this personal development with. And, our second date, he took me to get Korean food. And I'd had Korean food one time, and I had no feelings towards it at all. So he took me out to get Korean food and introduced me to the greatness that is Korean food. I cannot live without it now. And, he has really been very supportive without really doing much, if that makes sense. Like, he made me feel like it was okay for me to be who I am, and it was okay for me to have all these questions and wanting answers. And it was just this whole floodgate that I never knew those kinds of emotions were in me, because I had just kind of blocked it out and accepted it. And I did not have, I did have a pretty bad childhood, but I wasn't, I still have a good relationship with my adopted father. He is divorced from my adopted mother, but he and my stepmother I have a great relationship with, so there's nothing missing there. And that is something that I always thought, well, I'm perfectly happy. I feel like I'm well adjusted, so there's no point in looking into this. Well, as time went on, it began to kind of sink in that maybe this was something that I needed to look into. And long story short, I found a bunch of Facebook groups that I never knew existed. I just never thought that there would be a whole group of people that were just like me, people that were feeling they have abandonment issues, they have anxiety, they have social anxiety, they have all these other things that I thought was, I really just thought it was just me. I was just like, well, I'm just weird, and some people have emotional issues, and this just happens to be mine. But, finding the support group of people that I have now made several very good friends from, has just been crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy to me to think about, how much is actually out there. I didn't know that these adoptee trips existed. I didn't know that there were support systems in Korea that were helping people find their birth families. I mean, it was just a whole new world. So my very first friend, her name's Karen, was my very first adoptee friend that I met. We went to get Mexican food one night, and we just talked about everything, and my mind was blown about how much we had in common. I remember going home that night, and I just started sobbing, because I was just like, I never knew that there were people out there that had been through the same thing and that were feeling the same things as me. I finally felt like I had found somewhere that I fit in without having to try. So from there, it's just been kind of a growing process. It's been very emotional. Um, you know, Daniel and my very close friends will tell me that I have struggled a lot with this whole process. And, um, you know, I am known to randomly start crying when I see something on Facebook that gives me feels, and I just can't help it. I'm a very emotional person anyway. So, um, you know, it's been a lot of personal growth, and I can't say that I'm done yet. Obviously, this trip is going to be a big factor of that. But, you know, I feel like this trip is going to be a very big defining moment for my life, whether that means that I find some information or, you know, maybe find my family, or not. I mean, if I don't, whatever comes of this, if nothing else, I'll have a little bit more closure. This trip is not a vacation. It's not a fun trip. It is obviously a great opportunity, and it's a great opportunity to go see a place that I haven't seen since I was born. But this is not something that's going to be a fun time for me. I mean, there's going to be things that are great and fun about it, but I know that I will probably have a lot of emotional recovery to go through when I get home. And that was actually one of the questions they asked me in my interview, to give you an idea of how much this emotionally affects you. They literally ask you, like, do you have a good support system for when you come home? Hint, hint. Like, you're probably going to be a wreck when you come home. So, you know, I have a couple months to kind of mentally prepare myself for that part, but, you know, it's going to be hard. So with that, that's all I have for you today. I do plan on doing more video logs like this, so I hope you enjoy my rambling. You know, I think it's good to talk about it, and I think it's good to share parts of my story that, you know, a lot of people probably don't know, and that's fine. And it's not something I want to bore people with or brag about, or however you might put it. But I just think it's a good platform to be able to explain a lot of the issues that adoptees face, and just hopefully chronicle this journey. And maybe at the end we'll have some big happy ending to share. But at least for now, I have a good way to look back on this and see personal growth for myself. So that's all for now. I will be back on in the next few days, and thank you so much again for everybody that's contributed. Like I said, we're over halfway there now, so my mind is blown. I can't say thank you enough. I don't even know how to say thank you in the right way. It's very awkward for me, but I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys enjoy my first video blog.